Hello, everyone. This is Marcela Arrieta. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining from wherever it is that you're joining all over the world. So I thank you for holding space to be here with me today. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about what it is to be the architect of your life. I'm a entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, strategist, but personally, I like to say that I'm a soulpreneur. What is a soulpreneur? Well, to me, a soulpreneur is that person or that soul that is assisting other souls become those architects of their life. In other words, you're building the bridge between what it is that you want to your final destiny, which is the materialization of whatever your heart and your soul desire. So, a little bit about me, about Marcela Arrieta. I live in California, which is a state in the United States, for those of you who may be tuning in from other parts of the world. I was born many years ago. I'm not going to say how many years ago, okay? In Mexico. It's called, or it's known as the Highlands of Jalisco. It's a region in Jalisco, a state in Mexico that is very culturally rich. As a matter of fact, I wasn't born in a city. I was born in a very small village. I wouldn't even call it a town, a very small village. And I had the honor of coming into this world in one of my aunt's bedrooms. Wow, right? Talk about making an entrance. No hospitals for Marcela. She had to be born in a private home. Interestingly enough, as I was growing up in Mexico, I remember vividly, as if it were yesterday, that family was everything. Our culture is very rich. Our Mexican culture is very rich, but our family bond is even stronger. I was brought up Catholic, and my grandmother, oh my God, my grandmother to me personally is and still is, even though she left her body many years ago. To me, she is that perfect example of what a person with a kind, loving heart, a very intelligent mind, and this unsatiable thirst to be of service to God and to others. I remember how my grandmother would cook dinner every night. And even though her children were already grown, they had married and moved away, far, far away. My grandmother still cooked dinner as if all of her children were to sit down for dinner. And my grandfather would ask, Viejita, that's a kind name saying, well, my love. Viejita, why are you cooking so much food if there's no one here to have this food with us? It's only you and me. And my grandmother would always say, no, it's not about just us. I cook with the intention that my children are here, but whatever food we do not eat, I'm going to give it away to those people who need it, our neighbors. And that's what she did. Isn't that just amazing to have people in your lives that inspire you? She inspired me, along with my mother, very strong, powerful women and souls, in my opinion, that no matter what was in front of them, they persevered. And that is the topic of today. And today I have the honor of sharing a little bit more of how we could think outside of the box during these uncertain times. Actually, it doesn't just apply to these uncertain times that we're living through right now. The pandemic, so many other things that play throughout the entire world. You see, these are things that are always in motion in our lives. Our lives, we could have days where everything is going perfectly according to us, and we can have days where things are just not clicking for us. Well, guess what? That is an uncertain time in our lives. So, the idea behind what this student is sharing with you and will be sharing with you today is how we could go about stepping back, taking a deep breath, and seeing things from a different perspective, a perspective of clarity, of understanding. We are going to unpack. all of these wonderful things that we have within ourselves in a way that we reverse engineer the process. So I'm excited. Thank you again for tuning in. A special thanks to the Institute for Inner Studies for giving me this opportunity to share this platform with each and every one of you. But before we go further, I would like for you to take this time to grab a pencil and a pen. But don't worry, if you don't have one, not a problem. At the end of this presentation, you'll have access to download the worksheet, so not to worry. But before we go any further, let's do a quick little experiment. So I came across this poem a few years ago during those uncertain times in my life. And this poem really inspired me. And I feel that in a way, what this poem is about is truly that a reflection of our soul, of how we can rise through life during uncertain times to think outside of the box. In other words, not remaining like this, narrow-minded, not having the ability to step back and take advantage of the opportunities that are right in front of us. Okay, so sit back, relax, and allow me to read this poem for you. If you want, you can close your eyes. I highly advise it. Close your eyes, and let's just focus on our breathing. Gently inhale and gently exhale, and just follow the rhythm of your breathing. And whatever is going on outside of this, outside of your breathing, outside of your inner self, your awareness, your heart and your soul, just be aware. Keep your eyes closed, but you could also keep them open. All that I ask is that you open your heart, your soul, and your ears. Allow me to read the poem. And it goes like this. Imagine that you are a lotus seed buried beneath the muddy lotus pond. There is mud all around you, and you can feel them clearly above you. Above this muddy pool of dirt, mud and filth, are sunshine and air. You are not disheartened as you begin your journey towards the surface. With a determined heart, you begin to wiggle in the earth. You grow roots deep, deep into the mud. Your little stem grows up slowly, and suddenly, pop, you are out of the mud. Your stem grows higher and higher, taller and taller. You rise up slowly, fighting against the muddy water. All of a sudden, you are out of the muddy pond, where you reach up towards the warm sun shining down on you. Your lotus bud begins to grow on top of your stem. It expands and grows larger and larger, finally bursting into a full bloom, a white lotus flower. You stand beautifully above the muddy pond and water, not dirtied by the mud from which you grew. You are white, fragrant, and beautiful. Everyone who saw you marveled at your beauty, your determination to grow out of that muddy pond reminds them of the Buddha and his journey towards enlightenment. The Buddha, like a lotus, is determined to grow out of the muddy surroundings. That is the defilements and the sufferings of life. He has done all that is to be done And he is showing us that we can all do this. We can do this too. We may have defilements, but we all have the potential of growing out of the defilements and achieving wisdom like the Buddha. You are beautiful, white lotus flower. And your role is to remind people to rise above their defilements and sufferings, just as you are rising above the muddy water and not dirtied by the mud from which you grew. Wow. You could open your eyes. Isn't that just a beautiful reminder that regardless of what's going on around our lives, these defilements, which the poem talks about, are our weaknesses, those struggles that we have, that we all have. You see, no one is unique in that sense. We're having a physical experience, therefore, we have certain weaknesses that we have to work through. Weaknesses in this poem are referred to as defilements or as that muddy water or that muddy pond. It is our choice to rise above that or remain forever, I hope not, remain forever in that muddy pond. Wow, something interesting, right? And I hope that each and every one of you who listened to that poem has a few takeaways. As a matter of fact, this poem, towards the end of the presentation, the web address where this poem is at will be provided. It is important to share the credits of where this beautiful poem came from. So you will find it there. All right, let's move on. Ready? Let's get right into the presentation. Oh, yes. So this is the poem that we reviewed earlier. Again, it's reminding us that we have the choice to either remain stuck in the mud or we could break through that mud. It's amazing as we begin to break through that mud, we begin to grow. Our stem, our spiritual connection begins to grow and strengthen. And as we bloom into this beautiful form of analogy of the lotus flower, looking up towards the sun, ready to receive all of that warmth and all of that information and enlightenment, just like the Buddha. Let's talk about what is my mud? What does this mean? Okay, my mud means that maybe it's a representation of the fear that we're currently feeling. So we're not going to focus so much on the mud. It's important not to focus on our weaknesses. We don't want to energize them. So we're going to just review or have a basic overview of what that mud is. Mud in this presentation is a reference to some of our weaknesses or those vices that we all have. It could be in form of fear. It could be form of worry. A lot of things are happening on a global level right now that are causing us to feel that sense. And I emphasize the term feel. Fear or worry. Sometimes it could come in forms of anxiety. Or all of a sudden, we have a combination of all of this, and then, oh my gosh, I feel like I don't have enough money, or self-doubt, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to, yes, understand what our mud is, but remembering and knowing that at any given time, we could rise above these challenges. And today I'm going to share with you what are some of the tendencies or why we tend to get stuck. And for that, I'm going to share with you this video from the Institute of Inner Studies. A lot of you have seen it already, but for those of you who haven't, we're going to go through the process of why we tend to get stuck, okay? So a lot of that could come in forms of from childhood. A lot of us have, not a lot of us, the majority of us have traumas from when we were children. Those traumas could be in form of maybe some people who were around us inadvertently may have said, you know, you're not good enough, you're not going to amount to anything, you're never going to have money. You see, all of that is energy, as we all know, and that impregnates into our energy, and we grow up with this sense that we're not good enough or that we're never going to have enough money. So it's important that the information that is shared with you today, that you look through it and try your best to practice it and see if it works out for you. Oh my goodness, my apologies, I went forward. Okay, so it could be in those forms. As I mentioned, you know, as we grow up, we have arguments with people that we love. The stress from daily life. This is so important. The stress from daily life. We all have it. Even if we go outside, we drive around, we're exposed to this stress energy. Even if we watch the news or what's happening on social media, we pick up a lot of that energy, and inadvertently, we end up feeling with a lot of this. We pick up this energy of fear, of worry, of anxiety, of not having enough money, of self doubt, or whatever that is. And that, my friends, prevents us from rising above that murky water. We're looking up and we see the sun, but all of this is wearing us down. I don't know about you, but I don't like living like this. We have to find the solutions of how to think outside of the box, even though we're feeling all of this, all of these emotions, all of these thoughts are circling throughout our entire being. There are ways. There are ways to rise above. So let's get right to it. Ready? Let's talk about what are my strengths. Okay, what does this mean for you? What are some of the strengths that you possess? All of us have strengths. For me, I'll share some of those in a minute. Now we're going to identify 3 strengths. Why 3 strengths? I want to see if someone could guess why those three identifying 3 strengths is so important. And it goes back to a quote from Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui. And the quote says something like this. Ready? Uh-oh. Don't have too many objectives. One-pointedness is the key to success. Break one arrow at a time. Ooh, this is so important. What does that mean, my friends? It means this. It's happened to me many times, and every time it happens to me, it's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity that is given to me to unpack what is no longer serving me. But on a higher level, I realize that I am focusing too much on having too many objectives. So the Marcela from a few years ago was thinking mainly with the solar plexus, which is good to a certain degree. Emotion. Yeah, let's go. What's in it for me? Let's do it. But once I was in it neck deep, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a solution. I didn't have the key people. I didn't have the key items in front of me that I could work on layering and making sure that whatever project that I was working on would actually go through. And a lot of this, for many of us, what happens, and a lot of you can relate to that, I'm sure, but don't worry, don't feel bad. We all go through this. This is the purpose of these conversations. A lot of this has to do with not taking the time to sit back and reverse engineering the process. You've heard me talk about this earlier before, or that term, reverse engineering. And what that means is taking something and walking back from the back to the front. So we're going to reverse engineer what our 3 strengths are so that we can come to a conclusion of, hey, you know what? I'm really good at these key points, and this is what's going to propel me forward during times of uncertainty. I'm not going to be confined to this little box. I'm going to go outside of the box because there's a whole new world. There's so many opportunities outside of this teeny tiny box, right? But when we have too many objectives, it's similar to the image earlier. An arrow is pointing this way, an arrow is pointing that way, and then they're doing this, for example. So we're going in every single direction, and we may not have that much time on our hands. We may not have those resources, or for that matter, that energy. And what happens as we're working on all of these projects, 10, 20 projects at one time, we begin to feel exhausted. We begin to feel like we're not good enough. We begin to feel that self-doubt creeping up. And for a lot of us, we give up. We give up. And that is the worst form, my friends, of self-sabotage, because I know from experience that when we give up on a dream that we have, when we didn't plan it out properly, we look back and we feel guilty. We feel like we've let ourselves down, but we feel also that we let other people down because we are depriving not just ourselves from manifesting our greatness, but we're also depriving other people from experiencing that joy. And for that matter, our guru's teachings. So it's very important to pick and choose. So let's go back to the presentation. Oh, speaking of reverse engineering, right? Okay. All right. So this would be a perfect time for you to have a pen and a paper. And if you don't worry. This worksheet will be available for download. So my 3 strengths are, personally for me, speaking. I love speaking, whether it's via video conference or whether it's in front of people, which of course we can't do right now yet, but I love speaking. I love sharing. I love creating. I love to be a healer. How many of you can say, yes, me too, to maybe 1, 2, or even 3 of these? So let's take this opportunity to focus or to think about what our strengths are. So let's narrow down to only 3 strengths. Okay? Why don't you close your eyes? I invite you to take this opportunity to go inward. Close your eyes again and just imagine and visualize that you're this lotus seed stuck within the muddied waters. What are your 3 strengths that are going to help you propel out of this muddy pond and over the water? Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds to just jot down those 3 strengths. They could be in any order. It doesn't matter. Let's take a few seconds. And you'll know what they are because you will feel passion when you say them out loud. You will feel that they resonate with you on a deeper level. Maybe your solar plexus is saying, yes, 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 this is for me. Your heart is saying, of course. And your soul is saying, you got it, you got it, you got it. I love speaking. I love creating. I love healing. All of that resonates with me, with Marcela. What resonates with you? All right, let's move on. I'm sure you have those 3 strengths written down. And if you're finding difficulty in figuring out what they are, don't worry. Just allow it to flow. All right, here's where we reverse engineer it. And this is why it's important to pick and choose only 3, at least for this exercise. Why? Because we're going in detail in every strength. We branch off from that. Now, this worksheet will also be available for download. Regarding speaking, what was your first weakness? For me, it's speaking. So, what can I do right now to go outside of the box? Because if I was still stuck in the box, I would say, Marcela, no one could go out and do seminars or workshops because we are on lockdown. You see, that's thinking small. That's thinking within the confinements of the four walls of the box. We're here today to break away from that. We're going to break free of that limiting belief and that limiting story. There is no such thing as a box right now. So we could visualize that that box just simply either disappears or all four walls just go flat. We're looking around and it's like, oh, there's a whole new world here for me to conquer. So for me, and please follow along with this exercise, jot it down. Feel that excitement, engage your solar plexus, engage your heart center, engage your mental faculty, and engage your soul. Speaking. Interesting. What can I do right now to share my speaking abilities? I started looking for nonprofit organizations that could benefit from maybe a video conference or from mentorship. It doesn't have to be necessarily in person. And guess what? We're generating good karma. It is so important, and we already know this. But for those of you who are new to pranic healing, haven't taken the courses, or just have a general idea, I'm not going to get into the full-blown, I can't even speak, I'm so excited, full-blown details, but the overview of generating good karma is so important, because at every given time, we need to cash in that good karma when we want to continue to manifest our greatness. If we're running on an empty stomach, we won't get far. If we're running on an empty tank of gas in our vehicle, we're not going to get very far. So focusing on service, personally speaking, through nonprofit organizations, I'm not receiving money, I'm generating good karma. That's so important. That's the highlight of what I choose to do. Online, teach what you know. Oh my God, I can't stress enough how important that is. It does us no good to keep what we know within ourselves. As we give, we receive. It, just like in pranic healing, you know, we have to let go of the old so that we leave room for the new. That is so important. And as a matter of fact, through this session, I'm personally sharing what I know, what my passion is. We touched upon it. Okay, well, you know what? The third bullet point is I could pick up the phone and counsel someone that needs to be mentored. I could offer my services. I could say, hey, how are you? How are you doing? Would you like to feel better? Do you want to get on a quick video conversation? Something that's going to engage you to share what that strength is. So that's number one. You see how we broke it down? We reverse engineer it. We go into the speaking. Okay, how am I going to make this happen? Well, look for nonprofits, online courses, over the phone video chats. All right? So now you see why only sticking to 3 is important, because imagine if you had 5 or 10 strengths that you wanted to work on. Oh my goodness, you're going to have to go through this process. And trust me, some of us may not have the patience or the time. And again, we don't want to fall into the old us of, oh my God, this is overwhelming, and you give up. And then we regret it. So number 2, I love creating. I'm a creatress. I think I heard one of my friends say that term, creatress. So I love working with my clients on the possibilities that they accomplish through healing. This is very similar to what I share with a lot of my clients to help them discover and become those architects of their lives. I love to do that for my clients. I love creating new products. As an entrepreneur, hence creative entrepreneur, I'm so passionate about it. What's next? What else can I do? Yes, it is in my mind's eye. It starts out as an idea, more than likely through the meditation, but ultimately I start putting it down on paper, which is drawing. I love to doodle. And then I start working on the details. How can I make this product come to life? And I use the same approach that I'm sharing with you, which is I have a product. All right, fantastic. What's next? How much resource am I going to need? It could be people, it could be money, it could be where am I going to buy the raw materials, so on and so forth. So it goes in layers. It's strategy, but it's a creative strategy that I love. All right. The third item is, of course, healing. If you are already a pranic healer or a healer in general, we know we are all healers, but if that's what your business entails, then how are you getting out there right now? If that is one of your strengths, then that is what you need to put out there. How are you putting out this service, your ability to be of service to people who may be going through difficult times? And trust me, everybody's going through difficult times at any given time, but especially right now because of what we're living through as a collective. So how am I going to advertise myself? Social media, email. If you know nothing about social media or how to do this whole email marketing thing, there are people who are willing to barter their services for your healing. It's all about asking. As a matter of fact, I love to barter. I'm bartering with a very close friend of mine right now, bartering my healing services for her services. So it's an exchange, an equal exchange of energy, but you're healing. You're putting in motion that strength of yours. And guess what? If that person likes what you do, the chances are they're going to recommend you to their friend, to their mother, their father, their sister. You get the point, so on and so forth. It's a domino effect, okay? So don't go back into the box only because you don't know how to use social media or email or any form of advertisement. Thinking outside of the box during this uncertain time will require, and I emphasize, will require you to think beyond what we see in front of us. It's a time of opportunity right now, my friends. And that time of opportunity, at least for this advertisement, is let me barter. That could be the case for you as well. Do more service. Ay, ay, ay. Isn't this the cream of the cream or the cherry on the top? You could do distant healings, free or paid healings. And that little asterisk on the free means what? We're generating good karma in the process. So even if you don't reach out to people, it doesn't matter because you could still do distant healing whether the person knows of it or not. So let's do more service. And of course, studying Grandmaster Choco Sui's books is a must. Personally, for me, and for those of you who are tuning in that are pranic healers already, of course, you could study any book that you want, but being that, being that we are pranic healers or ahadic yogis for some of you, it's important that we study the teacher's books or whatever book or from whichever school you belong to, because that's going to refresh the data that we already have within our mental faculty. Personally, I cannot say that I have all of Grandmaster Hoksui's books memorized. No, it's a continuous thing. And the more that you read through the content, you realize, how come I've never seen this before? No, it's always been there, but maybe it wasn't the time for me to understand it at that level. And even if I keep rereading that phrase, it's going to mean something possibly different every time I read through it. So studying is so important. It goes along with that third point. And now that we have our three strengths, but not just have, but that we actually understand them on a deeper level, we went through details of, all right, speaking is one. How am I going to make that happen? How am I going to go outside of this box? And how am I going to go about making sure in a proper way that I can share my speaking abilities, that I can share my creative abilities, and that I can share my healing abilities. So we're going to remind ourselves that we are that lotus seed. So let's do a quick exercise before we wrap it up. I humbly invite you to once again close your eyes, get comfortable, feel your body simply melting into your chair, your bed, or wherever your body is at. And as we inhale deeply and exhale, emptying out all of that oxygen from our lungs and filling it with clean oxygen, we could focus gently over our heart, center our heart chakra. Just let's have a conversation with our heart. How are you, heart? Thank you for being here for me. And you could place your hands over your heart if you wish, or you could just put your gentle awareness over your heart. And now we visualize that we are that lotus seed stuck inside that muddied water. And that muddied water is a representation of our weaknesses, of the fear, of the worry, the anxiety that we feel, the sensation that we may not have enough money. All of that self-guilt or self-doubt, all of that is the muddied water. Simply take note of how that sensation feels throughout your body. Are there some parts of your body that are feeling more tense than the others? Maybe certain emotions come up, certain thoughts come up. It's okay. Let's just observe. And now we're going to break out of that seed. We're going to observe how our lotus stem grows gently above this muddied water. And as we stare down, we could see those weaknesses. And with all sincerity, we could say, thank you for serving me. Thank you for helping me rise above. I no longer need you. I know you're there, but I no longer need you in my life. I release you. Thank you. Inhale deeply and exhale. Once again, our stem grows bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, a lotus bloom. That's us. We're rising above the murkiness of the confinements of a box, of the confinements of this muddied pond, of the confinements of our weaknesses. And as we begin to bloom, we take note of our three powerful strengths. For me, speaking. I love speaking. I love creating. And I love healing. Feel whatever your strengths are with every fiber of your being. You are right now that lotus bloom. sensing all of these strengths with every particle of each petal. And guess what? You're blooming, blooming. Pop, you bloom. You're opening your petals and absorbing the beautiful energy of the sun that's right above you. And the sun wants us to know that it is always there for us. The sun can be a representation of our spiritual teachers, of God, of the universe, whichever name you wish to call it. The sun is always shining. No matter if we were stuck in the mud, the sun is there waiting for us to break free, to nurture us, to feed our strengths. And it wants us to know that with every strength, there is a way and there is a means to make it happen. Just be still and be receptive. See yourself acting out and pursuing each of these strengths. If it's speaking, see yourself speaking in front of a camera, speaking through a video chat, speaking through the telephone. The possibilities are infinite. If you love healing and if that is your strength, see yourself doing more service. See yourself putting yourself out there on social media, advertising. And every time you feel a knot in your stomach or that uncertainty creep up, remember that you are already above the murkiness of the pond. Remind yourself that even if we go back, even if we touch that mud again, we have the ability to create, to be the architects of our lives. Continue absorbing, continue seeing you do every single aspect of the strengths that you chose. And as you continue to do this, simply be aware and be receptive to the following. Master says, when you encounter obstacles, do not freeze. Do not be emotionally, mentally, and physically paralyzed. Remain calm. Be spiritually persistent. Be emotionally persistent. Do not let your heart shrink. Find ways and means to accomplish the task. Flow around the obstacles. Go over, under, around, and as a last resort, gently remove the obstacles. Master Choa Kok Sui on constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. Let's inhale deeply, absorbing the energy, holding it, and allowing that energy to just penetrate every particle of our being. And we exhale, sharing the blessings and the energy with all around us, our family, our homes, the community that we live in, the city, the state, the country, and of course, the entire planet, all of Mother Earth and all of her inhabitants. And now you can gently open your eyes. Hello, how are you? How are you feeling? Oh my gosh. My hope is that through this conversation, you've come to the conclusion that we all have mud. We all do. We all have weaknesses. But even more empowering should be the fact that our strengths overpower or should overpower those weaknesses. Anytime that you feel fear, worry, anxiety, or whatever lower emotion that may be, remind yourselves that you are that lotus seed. You have a choice to stay in the murkiness of that water and that mud, or grow out, bloom beautifully so that everyone could marvel at your beauty. And what that means, it is marvel in a way that they can take advantage of what you have to share, and take advantage through you sharing it, sharing your strengths. But before we share our strengths, just as a recap, we have to plan it out. It is so important. And again, be consistent with how you plan. Take only for now, at least for this exercise, 3 strengths and start reverse engineering them. How do I make this happen? There is no limit. You, my friends, are outside of the box now. Congratulations. Woohoo! Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for tuning in. You can download the worksheet, both worksheets. The link is going to be down here below. Feel free to use it, to share it. Use it anytime that you feel that you need to update your strengths. Now, we didn't write down our weaknesses. Why? I'll share it again. We don't want to energize that. We want to be aware of it, but we don't want to energize it. That's nice. You stay there. I'm going to take care of you right now because my strengths are going to overpower your weaknesses. That's the idea, my friends. Rise above it. Come out of that shell, of that box during uncertain times. And with that, let's see, I have to share the link to which you can gain access to the Lotus poem. One moment, please. I'll go back. So this is where you can access this beautiful poem. It's right down below. This is the entire link. You're more than welcome to take a screenshot of it and access it anytime that you need to for the entire poem, because it is a very beautiful poem, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful reminder of what we, the soul, are capable of. And with that, again, thank you. Namaste. Thank you so very much to everyone. I'd love to hear your feedback and your comments. And of course, if you have any questions, you can add them down below here. I'm more than happy to circle back around and answer to the best of my knowledge. Thank you to the Institute for Inner Studies for allowing the student to be of service, to share, and to hopefully inspire and empower you on this beautiful journey, on the journey of our soul blooming. Isn't that amazing, beautiful, and wonderful? It sure is. Namaste. Blessings to each and every one of you.